We're back here in Sports Talk Chicago. Joey Christopoulos filling in for John Zaghloul. Want to thank John so much for always tapping me on the shoulder to come in and sub in for him. I also want to thank our producer, John Meadows, for being at the controls, doing an amazing job as he does week in and week out, whether I'm in front of the mic, whether it is John or anybody else. He does such a great job. And I also want to thank our radio affiliates again, just really quick, 98.3 The Life, WKAN, W505 The Ticket, ACTV, JED-TV, WJOB, Cities 92.9, Talk FM, 101.1 Peoria Sports Radio, all the follow, link, like, and subscribe us on YouTube and all your socials. Anyways, let's get to the Chicago Bears schedule. It is out, baby. I can't wait. I'll be honest with you. At the end of the season, when you look at it and you pull it up, because the Chicago Bears finished in last place, right? They get the third easiest schedule in the NFL. You think, wow, this is fantastic. They're playing the opponents' records from last year. They're walking into the season. The slate of games of the opponents that they're playing only registered a 467 win percentage. So a below 500 schedule for the Chicago Bears. That seems really exciting, but then the schedule comes out, and I'm going to be kind of honest with you guys. On first blush, I don't like this schedule. The schedule's kind of tough. It's a lot tougher than I thought it was. You look at these opponents, and you're saying to yourself, maybe we get the Rams in the frigid cold weather of Chicago in December. That isn't happening. We played 3 AFC teams to knock off the schedule the first 3 weeks of the year. No division games until week 11. 4 of the last 6 games are on the road. That is crunch time when you are trying to get yourself into the playoffs right now, and 3 straight road games. So look, it wasn't as easy or as soft or cupcake as I thought it was going to be at first blush when I looked it up. And look, this just happened. I'm recording this at about 7:30 Central Time. So the schedule has leaked about a couple hours ago, but it became official about 30 minutes ago. We're going to break this down here. We're going to go game by game. I'm going to give you a little breakdown of some research that I did for each and every single team, a couple little news and notes, some things that I like, some things that I didn't like, and we're going to break it down. So a couple things really quick. Just kind of doing some research on the teams, the opponents on the schedule, not knowing when the games were going to land. I noticed a couple of really interesting things. I didn't do a full deep dive on all the stats, but I tried to look for certain things as I pulled up a lot of team DVOA. Which is basically you're trying to put weight into the games that are played when they're played and how a team would match up on an even neutral field at any moment at any time. That's the non-scientific way of talking about team DVOA. I also looked at defenses that allowed passing touchdowns. I also looked at the trenches because I think that's going to be a big topic over the summer. Now, to be very fair, the Bears did not address pass rush in the draft. They still have plenty of time to do it in free agency, whether it is bringing back a Yannick Ngakoue, whether it is bringing back a Calais Campbell. Just keep in mind, Bears fans, that they didn't sign Yannick Ngakoue until August 3rd. So this process of what are we going to do with the defensive line or trying to find a running mate on the other edge side with Montez Sweat, I think this could be a process that could last the entire summer. So just kind of hang tight, try and be patient with the Chicago Bears in that front. But I was also trying to look at teams that like to blitz the quarterback, something that, what do you say? What is a cliche all the time? You try and blitz the rookie quarterback. And I also try to look at opposing offensive lines. How stout are they? And if the Bears are a little short on the defensive end or on the defensive line, which it looks like they're probably going to be, it might be the weakest talent area on the football team. How are they going to do on a week in and week out basis? And it's been really interesting. Now, look, to be very fair, teams, defenses, offenses, they don't necessarily translate from year to year, especially when you look at defenses with turnovers that can fluctuate, that can kind of go in and out. But it kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of what the Chicago Bears are going to be up to on a week-to-week basis. And I'll be honest with you, it's going to be really feast or famine just based on some of these numbers. And you will hear some of these numbers very soon. But when it comes to opposing offensive lines for the Chicago Bears, you're either looking at the Chicago Bears defensive line going up against units that are top 10, top 5 in the NFL offensive line-wise, or they're going to be going up against units that are literally at the bottom of the NFL. There is very little middle ground when it comes to these opponents on this schedule. So what does that say right now in the middle of May? I don't know exactly, but what I would probably say is if I can make a prediction, is that maybe consistency on a week-to-week basis for the Chicago Bears defensive line, it may not be there. It may be a little inconsistent, as in 1 week they can't get to the quarterback at all, can't even get any quarterback hits. The next week they're picking up 4 or 5 sacks, and they may struggle on a week-to-week basis translating that into something that is a unit that can actually be respected and feared. On the opposite side, too, as well, some of these defenses, too, as well, some of them blitz a ton. Some of them don't blitz a lot. So it's going to be a little bit up and down. And I was also really curious, too, as well, that only one team on the schedule, again, rookie quarterbacks, what do we talk about? Blitz the rookie quarterback and trying to get him to throw interceptions or cause turnovers. Those are cliches that go back till the dawn of time. There's only one team on the schedule right now that averaged more than 1 interception per game last season. Only one defense that Caleb Williams is going to face, and that was the San Francisco 49ers, who picked up 22 interceptions last year. Every single unit that he is going to face averaged less than 1 interception per game, and we're either at the middle or the bottom half of the NFL in that category. So, a couple of interesting things there, especially from the blitz perspective, from the turnover perspective. There are a couple of guys offensive line-wise, and I'm kind of curious, and I'm kind of keeping my eye on depth-wise. Like, I don't know. This might sound a little homer, and maybe it's just because I moved back to Illinois, but maybe the Chicago Bears monitor how healthy David Bakhtiari is over the summer. Maybe see possibly can he come in as a depth piece. I do not think he comes in as a starter or should challenge for a starter. The dude's been dealing with injuries for the last several years. When he is healthy, he is a Pro Bowl style offensive lineman. Can you possibly bring him in? Can he possibly help you out a little bit? There's some things to kind of take a look at here as you move forward. And I think one of them is definitely going to be on that offensive line. Could we add more depth? And on the defensive line, you just need more talent. I mean, the Chicago Bears, they had the lowest sack percentage of any team in the NFL. Their 30 sacks as a team were the second fewest in the NFL. So here we go, baby. Let's kick it off. The Chicago Bears prediction schedule. We're going to go one at a time here. We're going to go week 1. The Chicago Bears open up at home against an AFC opponent, against the Tennessee Titans, starting on September 8th. Now, the Tennessee Titans, look, they lost Mike Vrabel. You think this team's going through a rebuild, but at the same time, they've been adding some pieces over the last couple of years. And this is, I'll be honest, a quick early test for a very, very talented Chicago Bears secondary. Let's name some of the players on this team, right? The quarterback is probably going to be Will Levis, who finished his rookie season as the starter on the team. They went out and they signed running back Tony Pollard. They went out and signed Calvin Ridley, gave him a huge deal. They still have DeAndre Hopkins, who they gave big money to last year. Treylon Burks, where does he fit into this now that Tyler Boyd is also in the fold? So between Hopkins, Ridley, and Tyler Boyd, that is a really interesting wide receiver core. I mean, we want to talk about DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze. Hopkins, Ridley, and Boyd, it's pretty solid. It's going to get you there. Now, in terms of team DVOA, they finished 26th. Obviously, they only won 6 ball games last year. They missed the playoffs. The interesting part about it is for a Bears defensive line that we're worried about, a team that might be a little maligned, a unit that might be a little maligned heading into September. The Titans offensive line, according to Pro Football Network, only ranked 29th in the NFL. That is the bottom of the barrel. So, again, early opportunity at home for the Chicago Bears and specifically that defensive line to get off to a good start, hit Will Levis a little bit and help that secondary try and bottle up Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Boyd, and the like. They're at home for this game. What am I going to do? Week 1, say they're going to lose in Caleb's debut at home? I mean, sure, this could possibly be a rain game, but no, I'm going a W on this one. I think the Chicago Bears beat the Tennessee Titans in week 1, and we go 1-0. We're never going to lose again. Hold on a second. Let's go to week 2. Week 2 is an interesting one. This is a Sunday night football game. This is a great marquee matchup, and hopefully, if both these quarterbacks win week 1, I think there's going to be a lot of talk about this one, and I can't wait to see this particular matchup against the Houston Texans. Sunday night football, September 15th. Under the bright lights in Texas, again, indoors. You're going to notice a theme, too, as well, when you talk about the schedule. A lot of games indoors, which is pretty good for Caleb Williams early on. And if you want to talk about that passing touchdowns record, well, however you feel about their one-loss record, whether they're going to the playoffs, the more games indoors gives Caleb an opportunity to put that 3 in front of that final number and get to 30 and possibly break a franchise record as a rookie Bears quarterback. Is that saying much? I'm not so sure, but it'll be really cool to see nonetheless. The Texans, as we all know, came out of nowhere. Won 10 games last year. CJ Stroud was amazing. They lost in the divisional round. They did win a playoff game. This is one of the first of several playoff teams that the Chicago Bears are going to be seeing from last year. The Chicago Bears are actually playing playoff teams last year that picked up 6 playoff wins across last year's slate. So, I mean, not only these teams get in, but they also did some damage in the playoffs. So, a real interesting test for them early on. Now, as we mentioned, Tennessee Titans, first week, offensive line, not so great. This week against the Texans, the offensive line, according to Pro Football Network, they are the 8th offensive line. That is a top 10 unit right there. So they protect C.J. Stroud. Their team DVOA was 12th in the NFL, which is good for a playoff team. It makes a lot of sense because they went to the playoffs. Again, C.J. Stroud coming back with an interesting cast of receivers that each and every week seemed to come up with a huge number, whether it was Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Noah Brown. They did draft Jawar Johnson. They brought in Joe Mixon to pair with Dameon Pierce. I like Dameon Pierce a lot. I don't know how much left Joe Mixon has in the tank, so that's an interesting 1-2 punch. They still got Robert Woods on that team. They brought back Dalton Schultz, which is a very capable tight end. And then, oh yeah, the big move in the offseason was bringing in Stephon Diggs. Look, I want to talk about the Bears in this show. Stephon Diggs mixing with a young quarterback trying to find his way in the league. I don't think is a great mix, but in week 2 right now, they could be making some sweet music. On the defensive side of the ball, that team is going to bring it. And that is a Sunday night game at Houston, ready to roll. They finished 7th in QB hits last year. And to be honest with you, I have to go with a loss on this one. I'm going to protect my heart here, not get too ahead of myself. I just think this is a tough matchup. It's Caleb's first road game. It's a night game. I don't know if I'm buying CJ Stroud as like this amazing superstar in the league, even though he played like one last year. Let's see him do it again one more year. But I just think at this time, this early in the season, the Chicago Bears are going to have a little bit of a hiccup. It's probably going to be in this game. So I got him losing in this one. I got him going 1-1. And we stay on the road. It's an interesting schedule. There are some fat home stretches. There's some fat road stretches. In this one, we're staying 2 games on the road here. Week 3, September 22nd at Indianapolis. I'm going with a W on this one. There's a couple of pretty easy reasons why. One, look, I like Anthony Richardson. He got hurt a little early. He's still going to be pretty green, learning the offense. It is at home. Again, another indoor game for Caleb. Another strong offensive line, too. So another tough matchup for our defensive line. Ranked number 6th overall for Pro Football Network. The team DVOA, though, was only 20th. Some of that had to do with the quarterback play and the fact that Anthony Richardson could not stay healthy. That will be a huge issue. They finished 9-8. They did miss the playoffs. Most of that was with Gardner Minshew. Anthony Richardson, week 3, I'm going to guess that he probably plays in this game. I mean, but looking at the cast of characters, I'm really not that impressed with their weapons. And there's part of the reason is you got Jonathan Taylor, great centerpiece. They brought back Michael Pittman, who's a sure deal. I'm sure if he had actually hit the open market, the Chicago Bears would have been interested. But after that, it kind of falls off the cliff. Josh Downs, Alec Pierce. They drafted Xavier White. We'll see. Their tight ends, Mo Alley Cox. I'm not really buying it with the Colts right now. And look, you got back-to-back weeks. I do think Caleb is a guy who can learn from his mistakes. This is week 3 now. I think it's a great time for Caleb Williams to come in and pick up his first road win of the season. It's probably going to be one of the morning games, or excuse me, the noon game now that we're in Central Time. I'm going with the Colts win. I'm going with the Colts loss on this one. The Chicago Bears win. They moved to 2-1. And then we moved to week 4. And I got to tell you, this one sucks. When you see the Los Angeles Rams on the schedule, all you want them to do is just put that game in December. Make them go outdoors and play Chicago Bears weather football and give yourself an opportunity, give yourself a chance. Not happening. It's going to be September 29th, week 4. The Chicago Bears are going to host the Los Angeles Rams. I got to be honest with you. I think the Bears lose this one. Look, they can't win every single home game. Matt Stafford is still a very, very capable quarterback. I've given him a lot of criticism in the past. He does have a Super Bowl ring now, so I do need to probably back off of that a little bit. There's a couple of interesting things about this. It's a home game. I feel like it's a little bit of a trap game. You got Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. Kyron Williams is an incredibly talented running back. They drafted Blake Corum. They still have Tyler Higbee. Jimmy G's their backup. We'll see. Probably won't play in this game. But I just think this is a tough matchup for the Bears, to be honest with you. I still like the Rams secondary a lot. They actually were the seventh fewest opposing quarterbacks. They allowed the seventh fewest completion percentage, 60.8%. So moving the football might be a little tough. With Matt Stafford, they're going to be passing the football, so you really need to kind of bring your A game offensively. On a team DVOA standpoint, the Rams finished 17th, which is about middle of the league, but they still figured out a way to make the playoffs. I mean, they lost in the wild card round, but they still picked up 10 wins. So as much as I would love a bit of a smackdown here, I don't like the placement of the Los Angeles Rams in this schedule right now. So I got to be honest, I'm going with a loss on this one. And you're saying, whoa, hold on a second, Joey, it's the summertime. We're supposed to be having fun. We're supposed to be getting a tan. We're supposed to be sucking down chili dogs outside the Tasty Freeze. They're only 2-2. Okay, hold on. I see a run coming, and it starts with Chicago Bears' favorite other team on the planet, the team we're going to be sending flowers and chocolates to for the next 10 to 20 years, hopefully. It's Carolina Panthers coming to town on October 6th. This is week 5. I think this is a win. This is a great possibility where I think the Bears might have an opportunity for possibly a Caleb Williams breakout game if you want to maybe peg one of these moments. We all know the story with the Panthers. They were 2-15 last year. They missed the playoffs. Obviously, they gifted us the number 1 pick. They still owe us their second-round pick next year, so we are still sucking at the teat of that amazing trade Ryan Poles made by trading the first number 1 pick 2 years ago. What stats can we say that aren't obvious, right? Team DVOA for the Panthers was 32nd, and it was last in the league. They were ranked 24th offensive line. This is a great matchup for the Bears defensive line. They had the second lowest sack percentage, just behind, the Chicago Bears in that particular category. I will say, though, I don't think the Carolina Panthers are going to be 2-15 terrible this season. I do think they're going to be able to put up a little bit of a fight. They went out, they picked up a couple of extra veterans. No, we all know about the situation with Bryce Young. He needs more help around him. And what do? They literally went out and did that. They still have Chuba Hubbard in the backfield with Miles Sanders. I think Hubbard's probably the lead dog back there. But they went out to add to Adam Thielen. They brought in Deontay Johnson. He's a good slot receiver. I think he's actually going to pair really well with Bryce Young, getting the ball out quickly. Get a little bit of that yak going. That's a guy you definitely got to keep your eye on. And then they went out and they drafted Jonathan Mingo. They brought in Xavier Legreet this year, and also Terrace Marshall still on the team too as well. And they brought in Rashad Penny as a running back. So the pieces are a little bit better for the Carolina Panthers. They're not going to be terrible, but I don't think they're going to be a good football team again this season, which hopefully means the Chicago Bears in the second round will have a pick in the 30s. I'm going with a W there. The Bears over 500 now, back to 3-2. Moving on to week 6, Jaguars at home in London. I kind of struggled this one. And honestly, if anyone has the inside track on who's going to win this game, give me a call. Let me know, because who knows, right? The Jaguars, they play there every single year. I'll be honest with you, with the pomp and circumstance, I am going with the Chicago Bears win on this one. It's just before their bye week. And hey, it's kind of nice, right? The Chicago Bears have had late bye weeks the last several years. A week 7 bye week is just the right time to kind of take stock, reflect, move back, see if you need to make any kind of adjustments, see if you honestly need to make a trade because the trade deadline got pushed back to week 10. You can kind of start that process a little bit. And let's be honest, Ryan Poles, he's an aggressive man. He's done it 2 years in a row. He could possibly do it again this year, especially with 2 second-round picks heading into 2025. The Jaguars, they're a little weird team, 9-8, missed the playoffs. Cast characters, Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, great running back. Christian Kirk, very solid wide receiver. I do really like the Brian Thomas drafting of Brian Thomas in the first round. I think that's a big wide receiver that could definitely help out Trevor Lawrence a lot. And then they went out and they signed Gabe Davis too as well. Their 21st ranked offensive line last year, so pretty decent matchup for the defensive line. They did allow 27 passing touchdowns, which is what I kind of like. If you want to just sort of, do this in May right now, how do the Chicago Bears compete going all the way to London? It's kind of a road game, even though it's technically a home game for the Chicago Bears, which isn't super great. They allowed 27 passing TDs last year, so I do think Caleb can probably hang in this game. I think it would be really fun to see a Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams shootout. For those waking up on the West Coast, it will be at like 7 in the morning. You'll wake up and go, whoa, it's 21-20. What's going on? But it should be a lot of fun. I am going with a win on that one. Chicago Bears move to 4-2, head into their bye week at week 7. And then afterwards, they come back. And I tell you, this schedule gets weird. I'm telling you, there's a home stretch, there's a road stretch. Let's dive right into it. Week 8 at the Commanders. Look, this is a W, right? I mean, I understand that every single year the Commanders seem to throw money at some guys and they talk this whole new game about how things are going to be different this time. I'm not buying it. The Commanders last year, want to have some fun. They allowed the most passing touchdowns to any defense to any other NFL to opposing quarterbacks across the NFL. They allowed 39 passing touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks last year. Holy moly. And they're ranked 31 among offensive lines in football, according to Pro Football Network. So again, great opportunity. As you notice, see some of these units, they're really stout. The Chicago Bears defensive line might have a hard time. But then there's other matchups like this Commanders matchup where the Chicago Bears defensive line could possibly feast. It could be a feast or famine situation of inconsistency with that defensive line. And it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out as the season moves along. But again, this is a great matchup for Caleb. This is a great matchup for the Chicago Bears. Commanders team DVOA was 31st last year, second to last. They were 4-13. They missed the playoffs. Fun matchup, though. Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams. Can't get really any better than that. I'm sure they're going to do everything they can to try and hype that up. But the pieces in Washington, I'm just not really buying, to be honest with you. Terry McLaurin, great player. Austin Eckler, great fantasy player, but is he still that guy? I kind of doubt it. I have my doubts. They drafted Luke McCaffrey, good for them. Jahan Dotson's a good wide receiver, but week 8, that could be that point a little bit where are the Commanders actually competitive? Are they falling apart a little bit? Are they experiencing growing pains? I think the Chicago Bears can easily pick up a win right there. So all of a sudden, look, I have the Chicago Bears at 2-2. Now all of a sudden they are 5-2. They are what we call on a bit of a winning streak. They stay on the road the very next week, go to Arizona against the Cardinals. We're into November. This is November 3rd. I'm going to be real with you. I'm also calling that a win too as well. I've never been a Kyler Murray fan. I understand that adding Marvin Harrison will be great. That will be a hard time. I'm curious to see whether they put Jalen Johnson on him, which I think they should, or whether it's going to be a Village or whether it's going to be Tyreek Stevenson. But again, another great matchup for Caleb Williams. The Cardinals allowed 32 passing touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks last year. They also missed the playoffs. They also allowed the most rushing yards per game at 143.2. I'm not saying that they're going to be that terrible this year, but it's hard to really turn that around in just a year. Some of the pieces, Kyler Murray, obviously under center, James Conner, Marvin Harrison drafted, Zay Jones, Greg Dortch. I mean, the group is fine. I think Marvin Harrison's going to have to carry a very heavy load there. The guy that I think that we really need to keep an eye on is Trey McBride, their tight end. That dude is legit. You saw that last year too as well. He's going to be a great fantasy player, and I think that's going to be a really interesting day for the linebackers, Edwards and Edmonds, Sanborn, of trying to keep that guy in check. But again, in Arizona, in November, that's another indoor game for Caleb Williams. I mean, it's shaking out pretty good for Caleb Williams to put up some numbers. So if you're saying to yourself, if the Chicago Bears could be a top 12 defense, I don't know about top 5, I don't know about top 8, like a lot of people are saying, they could be a top 12 defense. The Chicago Bears can somehow creep into that 14, 15, 16 category offensively, or maybe even higher. I think you really got something. And that's why I'm picking these wins the way that I am right now, is because you just kind of look at how it's shaking out. These are pretty good matchups for Caleb Williams. Even as a rookie, these are pretty good setups for him to have, some strong games, put up some strong numbers, and give ourselves an opportunity to put some points on the board and win some football games. Again, this is week 9. Is Kyler Murray going to be healthy? I mean, their backup's Desmond Ridder. So I'm just kind of throwing it out there right now. We don't have a team for Ryan Tannehill, but just sort of saying there. So I got the Chicago Bears winning. All of a sudden, they've won 4 in a row. They're 6-2. Feeling pretty good, right? You're probably saying, hey, Joey, pump the brakes. You're getting a little ahead of your skis a little bit there. No, I'm saying they win again because this is the best part of the schedule. And honestly, this is where the Chicago Bears really need to set themselves up to get themselves into the playoff conversation, maybe even get themselves into the division conversation and build a little bit of a pad, because the schedule is going to get tougher. But this is right here, probably at the end of it. They finally come home. They haven't been home. So let's get this straight here. They play the Panthers on October 6th. They go to London. They have a bye week. So after they play them on October 6th, they don't set foot on Soldier Field soil until November 10th against this Patriots team at home. I'll be honest with you. I don't know whether Drake May is going to be playing quarterback by then. He probably should be. I don't think this Patriots team is very good at all. I'm calling this another victory here for the Chicago Bears at home. This one could possibly get ugly for the Patriots. They had a team DVOA of 27th in the NFL last year. Another team that was 4-13 missed the playoffs. They blitz a lot. I'm curious to see with Gerard Mayo now under center as a head coach, what exactly they decide to do there. But again, offensive line, terrible. Ranked 30th in the NFL coming into the season. And if you look at the weapons, Antonio Gibson, Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper, KJ Osborne, Juju Smith-Schuster, Ramondre Stevenson, Jalen Polk, they drafted him. I don't see anybody that's going to give the Chicago Bears problems. I see them winning this game. And all of a sudden now, heading into November 17th against the Packers at home, the Chicago Bears, in my estimation, are going to be, let me get this right here, they're going to be 7-2. And man, that's when you're going to see me lathered up. And the narratives are going to start. How far can they go? Are they legit? It's all going to head towards this matchup, Week 11 against the Packers. I don't know if we're in flex schedule time by that point, but that seems like a game that could easily get flexed. They're playing the Packers at home November 17th. I hate the Packers. We all know this. I play fantasy football every single year. I will never draft a Green Bay Packer. I don't even care. I'll win without them. It doesn't matter to me. I will never draft a Green Bay Packer in fantasy. But I'll tell you, they're still in my head. And until proven otherwise, I'm going with a loss here. I'm going with the loss. The Packers beat the Bears at home. Is it going to be so easy, right? Is it going to be that fun of a joyride where Caleb is ripping up the NFL? Chicago Bears are winning games. He's throwing touchdowns. We got the Bear Claw rolling. We come in and then also beat Green Bay. I'm still a Midwesterner at heart. I still have to protect myself a little bit and not get too far ahead of my skis and say that I just think the Packers will come in and win this game. Look, it'll probably, hopefully be a close game. But again, Jordan Love came out 9-8. They went to a wild card game. They won a wild card game. They lost in the divisional round. They have an interesting cast of wide receivers that I do like a lot. Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs. If Watson stays healthy, man, he is a monster. I'm a big fan of him. They have the number 5 offensive line heading into the season. Again, a defensive line game for the Chicago Bears. They really need to come up and step up to that test and make it happen. The Green Bay Packers, they do allow a lot of rushing yards, but in a close game, you're going to need them to pass the ball. And you know, they get to the quarterback. They do. They finished 10th in QB hits last year. I'm just looking at right now, and I'm just going to say I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm just saying that the Packers win that game right there to break the losing streak. A little bit of a humble pie for a Chicago Bears team that has a long way to go. Heading into Week 12, this is just before Thanksgiving. This is November 24th. The Vikings at home. This is so weird. We don't play one division team until Week 11. Which is so fascinating, right? Because sometimes in the beginning of the year, you want to try and play some of these teams while they're still trying to figure it out. And you're trying to hope that your team already has it figured out. So by this point, Week 12, we will know exactly who J.J. McCarthy is or isn't in his rookie season. Vikings at home, I am going with the win for the Chicago Bears, but I will say there are a couple things. This matchup is not easy, and this is what makes the NFC North so competitive and so interesting this year, is that look, they were 7-10. They missed the playoffs, but they still have the number 9 offensive line heading into the season. They're one of 5 teams with a hurry percentage over 9% last year. Brian Flores led the NFL in his defensive unit with a 51.5 blitz percentage. And oh yeah, they went out and they signed Greenard. They went out and signed Greenard from the Texans, and they also drafted Dallas Turner. So they have 2 new bookends right now. Hungry, ready to get after the quarterback, and our quarterback is named Caleb Williams. We want to keep him protected as best we can. I don't think the Vikings are going to be a rollover. That's for sure. I got them winning this game right now. The Chicago Bears winning this game. Obviously, they brought in Aaron Jones, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson. This is not going to be an easy matchup. I just think at this point in the season, I think we're going to know that Caleb Williams is a better quarterback than J.J. McCarthy, which is why I'm giving the Chicago Bears a win right there. Then, welcome to the gauntlet, everybody. This is when it gets dark. So the Chicago Bears at this point right now, I have them at 8-3. 8-3, feeling pretty good. Looking at the playoffs, dead in the face. They go to Detroit to play the Lions for the first time on Turkey Day. Look, the Lions, we play them well. And I'll say this, for 55 of the 60 minutes we played them last year, we pretty much kicked their ass all around the field. But we were blowing leads left and right. And they were able to come out and they were able to scratch out a win. But again, offensive line, number 2 in the NFL. They just signed Penei Sewell. They gave him the bag. They signed Amon-Ra St. Brown. Gave him the bag. Jared Goff, they gave him the bag. That's a story for another pod. I think that's a total mistake. But again, he's walking into the year. They're trying to win the Super Bowl. They give up a lot of passing touchdowns. Every single year, they think that they've fixed their defense. They didn't fix their defense. Again, another indoor game for Caleb Williams. The Lions, they allowed 28 passing touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks last year. But just like the Chicago Bears, they're great at stopping the run. So this is going to come down to who makes the play at the right moment. At this time, at this juncture right now, of course I'm going to change my mind. But I say the Chicago Bears lose this game right now. The first test between the Lions, who I think currently, them and the Packers. See, here's what I'm doing is you see the Packers and you see the Lions. I think they're the class of the NFC North right now. I think Caleb Williams needs to climb that hill, get to the top of the mountain, and vanquish some of these guys. I think on the first crack at it with both of them, I'm picking losses right now for Caleb and the Chicago Bears. I think they lose on Turkey Day. I'm hoping that it's close. But again, it's kind of, we're at a little bit in the Detroit Lions time. And we're coming. I get it. We're going to be on their block very soon. But they're the team right now that you have to look at. And if you want to be a team that's going to win a playoff game, that's eventually going to win a Super Bowl, and Caleb needs to be the quarterback that you want him to be, that you hope him to be, that you dream him to be. You know, these are lessons learned. And I think that they lose to the Lions in this game. Week 14, we get into December. They're playing the 49ers. I also have this as a loss right now. Let's be honest. This is probably one of the easier losses that I'm probably going to predict out of this entire schedule. San Francisco 49ers, they're a real deal. You know, they lost the Super Bowl. They lost to Patrick Mahomes in overtime. That's quite a feat. They played pretty well. They're incredibly deep. They're incredibly talented. We know all the offensive weapons. It's Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. They drafted Ricky Pearsall, Brock Purdy under center. Look, they finished 3rd in the NFL in QB hits. They finished 2nd in the NFL in team DVOA. They have a middle-of-the-ground offensive line, but does it really matter with Kyle Shanahan's play calling? And look, on the road, I just think this is a tough matchup, to be honest with you. And I'm going to go even further. Let's roll ahead to week 15 at the Vikings, indoors. We picked up a win against them a month ago, but again, that home crowd, this is a tough matchup. I have them losing this one too as well. So they've gone from 8-3 in my book to losing 3 in a row, all those 3 games on the road, 8-6, kind of really looking at themselves in the mirror. And this is the true test of the season. And if it shakes out this way, which it probably won't, but if it does, this is a great litmus test for Caleb Williams. You know, what does he do in this moment? All the offseason talk about leadership and what kind of a guy he is in the locker room. I think this is where you start to find it out right now, because they come home week 17 against the Lions, December 22nd. Santa's packing up his sleigh with presents, and I think this is where they get a win. And I think this is a statement game. And I think this not only ends that 3-game losing streak, it gets them to 9 wins. It gets them over 500. They beat the Detroit Lions, and I think it galvanizes and gives them that type of confidence that they need in this moment to possibly make the playoffs. Will they? Oh, let's find out. Rolling forward to week 17 of Thursday Night Football against the Seahawks at home, day after Christmas. I like this matchup for the Chicago Bears. Look, they got a bad offensive line, the Seahawks. I think they could really eat. They gave up a lot of rushing yards. That's usually a great recipe for success for the opponent. They missed the playoffs. They were 9-8. They got great weapons on offense. I like DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Good 1-2 punch with Zach Charbonnet and Ken Walker. But again, at this point, this is a money game right here. I personally don't really think the Seahawks are going to be fighting for the playoffs the way probably the 49ers and the Rams will be in that division. So I think there's more at stake for the Chicago Bears in this game. I'm going with a W, which puts them at 10-6, which leads to January 5th, 2 days after my birthday, the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field. What do we do? What happens? Well, guess what I think does happen? I think the Chicago Bears win this game. And this is what I'm saying is if you want to play it out through the trajectory, it's not going to be all linear. But for Caleb Williams, there's going to be some bumps in the road. You're going to have to beat the bigger guys on the block, which are the Lions and the Packers right now. I got them losing in their first meetings with the Lions and the Packers, but then I got Caleb bouncing back and winning the last one against the Lions at home and then the last one at Green Bay to give them 11 wins for the season, 11-6. I think they make the playoffs. That's obviously enough to make the playoffs. I don't think that's going to be enough for the division, but it's going to be really close, right? I think the Packers, the Lions, and as I'm calling it right now, the Chicago Bears all have a great shot at 10-plus wins this year. So that's my thing. I'm saying 11-6 for the Chicago Bears. First blush thoughts on the Bears schedule.